everybody. Today we had the good fortune to interview Representative Jennifer Loon, who chairs the E12 funding division in the House of Representatives. It was a very good interview. She was generous with her time, and I found her to be very articulate and I think bipartisan in her approach to funding education. First question I asked her was along the lines of what her own plans were for the committee.
Well, my priority is to create funding for our early childhood through 12th grade students that continues to move us in a direction of providing the best possible education for every student in the state of Minnesota. That means narrowing and closing the achievement gap, making sure that all of our students come out of their education at 12th grade with a high school diploma and college and career ready. So they are ready to move on to their next phase of their education and pursue the careers and aptitudes and dreams that they have for themselves and can do that successfully.
Are there some areas that you're looking at in terms of some reforms?
Well, I think there were a lot of new initiatives started within the last biennium, and some of them I think we'll want to continue on. And these are areas where I think there's a lot of common ground between the Republican-led House legislature and the governor. Early childhood education is one of those big areas. We've seen that through the scholarship programs and the support of school readiness and other quality preschool programs, that we are able to get children who may have entered into kindergarten without those early learning experiences, may have been behind. They are now coming into kindergarten ready to learn on par with their peers and getting into the hard work of learning to read and being proficient by 3rd grade. So we will definitely continue an emphasis on that area. We will also look at some other things to support literacy from preschool through 3rd grade. Reading Corps, I've been incredibly impressed with what Reading Corps has been able to do in our schools, and I know the governor has indicated he wants to increase funding for that. I'm very receptive to that. And then also just identifying other strategies that school districts and charter schools and that are using that are beating the odds. We heard yesterday in Education Finance some really compelling testimony about schools that serve some of the poorest of the poor children in our state, English language learners, families that struggle with poverty and other factors, but they are getting those kids proficient as measured by our MCAs in reading and math and getting them really off to a great start. And we know that they're going to be successful with those efforts. So how do we replicate that in schools that are not being able to do it? What lessons can we learn? So those are just some of the things I'm looking at this early stage in the session.
I know it's not fair to really ask you for detailed questions about the governor's budget because it just came out yesterday. But do you have any thoughts about, I think it's 1% and 1%. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, he's got about a 1% increase each year of the biennium for the per pupil formula. I do think putting money on that formula that goes to all schools according to the number of students they have is a fair way to do it, to increase our education spending. He's also got a significant amount of money to increase early childhood learning. We're going to have to take a close look at that. Again, I mentioned it's a priority for all of us, but the details are important. One thing I would say is that in looking at trying to do preschool or pre-K for all 4-year-olds, it's a very expensive proposition. And I just know realistically that we're going to have to target the money that we receive to those students who need it the most. So our scholarship program right now is modeled so that the money is directed to parents who maybe would qualify for free, or their children would qualify for free or reduced lunch. And I think that's where we need to keep our focus. While it might be nice to talk about providing free universal pre-K, it's not free, and we probably won't have the money to give it to all 4-year-olds. So we need to concentrate the effort and the money where it's needed most.
Are there facilities questions that come up with this expansion of a number of kids that are involved in
Facilities comes up often, and there was a report, a task force report on alternative facilities funding and sort of the need out there for maintenance in a lot of our school buildings. We haven't gotten to a hearing on that topic yet, but it's coming. We do have a disparate system with regards to some districts being able to levy locally for their maintenance requirements and funding. Others are not. It's just one of many important topics we'll be tackling.
This is kind of a vague question, but the Rochester School Board has always been big on the concept of local control. How do you see that, your philosophy playing out on that?
Well, I think we're perfectly in tune if that's what Rochester would like. I think most districts want to see that. It's a very familiar refrain, including from my own of Eden Prairie. So, what I'm pledging to districts is that, you will not be seeing a lot of strings tied to the money that flows to schools this year in legislation that I will be sponsoring or moving through the committee. I want to give the schools more flexibility to meet the goals and the needs of their individual students. With the passage of the World's Best Workforce last year, every school's got goals that they have to meet. I'm not going to tell you how you have to do that, other than we expect you to meet those goals. That is a strong measure of accountability. But I want to give you the flexibility and the innovative freedom to do that how it best suits your students' needs.
I don't see this, the K-12 or the E-12 agenda as being that politically charged yet this session. Do you anticipate having a good working relationship with the Senate and the governor on this?
I do. Now, I haven't had a chance to sit down with the governor yet, and obviously with his budget just being released yesterday, we're in the very early stages. But again, I have identified a lot of areas of common ground, of areas that we all have identified as being important. So, I think we're starting from a good place. There's always jockeying and back and forth on how much money into various programs and initiatives, but I think if we can, first of all, I'll agree that we're in this to do what's best for our kids. Generally, it's recognized that flexibility for the school districts is a good thing, and that closing the achievement gap, there are some things that we know that have been successful, like early intervention through early childhood education. So we've got some great starting points for common ground, and I'm very optimistic about having this be a nonpartisan or a less partisan area of the budget negotiations.
I promise to keep it short. I have one last question. Do you have any advice or counsel to the superintendent or the school board in Rochester?
Just that I've been pleased to already have someone from Rochester, one of your principals, in to testify before the committee on sort of your innovative 45-15 school year choice program. It's terrific. I want to encourage those things, and just know that my door is always open. Happy to hear from you anytime, and keep your comments and suggestions coming.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.